Greetings. In this video discussion, I'm going to be talking about the three paradigms of understanding the relationship of Scripture to the historic tradition of the church. Now, as we saw in the lecture, Dr. Claunch had told us that there were three major ways of viewing Scripture in relation to tradition, and those were tradition 1, tradition 2, and tradition 0. I fall more along the line of tradition 1, although I do think that I've had a tendency in the past to want to go the route of tradition 0, especially in light of scriptures like 1 Peter 1:18, where he says, "For you know that it was not with perishable things, such as silver or gold, that you were redeemed from the empty way of life handed down to you from your ancestors." I grew up in a Pentecostal denomination, which held to their own tradition, even though it was relatively new as far as church history goes. They clung to that more than they did scripture at times, or their misunderstanding of scripture, I guess. And that's, I guess, because of the tradition that I was handed or grew up in was so errant at times. I kind of want to shy away from anything that sounds traditional in that sense, but that's really something that I have grown in over the last several years, especially being in seminary here. Another scripture for justification of shying away from tradition would be when Jesus was speaking to the Pharisees in Mark 7, he said that they have to let go of the commands, or they have let go of the commands of God and are holding on to human traditions. Now, obviously, Jesus is not discounting tradition here, because there's an entire tradition of faithful Jews at this point that had been looking for a coming Messiah. And like we see in Luke, where we have, let me see here exactly, that way I'm not just not quoting. You have in the beginning of Luke, you have when they go to present Jesus at the temple, you have there's two here, let's see. You have Simeon, who was looking for the coming Messiah, and the prophetess Anna, who both rejoiced when they saw Jesus at the temple, meaning that they were looking for the true Messiah, and they saw the signs that his time was drawing near there. So tradition, in the sense of a Pharisaical understanding, would be kind of that rote, do what the scripture says, take everything as literal as possible, build those walls around scripture, rather than having really that relationship that God has for us through Jesus. You see that throughout the New Testament, kind of this, your traditions are wrong. Not that tradition itself is bad, but just that tradition is, like everything, can be subject to the fall. So I'll say this: if your traditions uphold Scripture and they're in line with Scripture, then you need to hold on to that. But if your Scripture, or if your tradition is not in line with Scripture, if it's leading you away from Jesus, if it's not pointing you to the gospel, or it's not teaching you the truth about the Bible, they need to be um, done away with. And really, uh, that's what it boils down to. So through God's grace, I'm really more along tradition one now, because I see that it's not um, the tradition of the church that is bad, because we can build on that. We can know that through the last 2,000 years of the church, that there have been those who have been right and understood the Bible correctly, just like Simeon and Anna understood the Old Testament correctly. We can build on that, and we don't have to be afraid of that. In fact, we can draw strength from that, and that's what I'm doing more and more.